prison for all that time. So God changed me in a miraculous way to be able to do the things that I'm doing today. And I say that he allowed me to get to the gates of hell. Didn't get in there because I hear people say, I've been to hell. No, you haven't. He allowed me to get to the gates of hell, to hear the screaming, the torment, the pain, the suffering, everything that goes on there, to be able to come back out here and explain to the youngsters, that's where you don't want to go. Because you look at me and you hear my story, you think that I'm the one who's doing the violence. I had my nose broken in one ride, my wrist broken another one, 18 stitches on top of my head. I was stabbed 27 times. I mean, I can go on and on. That's what prison. That's the reality of prison. These guys come out with tattoos and mustaches, talking about how tough they were. It's a lie. Until they close that door, you're on your toes 24/7. You know, and I see people commit suicide because they couldn't handle the stress. You know, but they'll come out here and try to impress the people out here that how tough they were. It's a lie. So he said, today I'm out here to let you know that God is there for you if you choose that. Because before God created the foundation of the earth, he knew he was going to have to die for somebody like me. That was, you know, I was heartless, I was ruthless. But at the end of the day, he knew that I was salvageable. He knew that I could make it. And today, we're doing Restoring Citizens. Guys just got out May of last year. And we're already running a home through the grace of God. Not through us, because we're helping God's children in a greater way, in a bigger way. Thank you.
All right, yeah. Eddie, did you think you would be visiting prison and be able to go home the next day?
I'm going to be honest with you, yes.
Yes, you did. Well, way to ruin that setup.
I had family that worked at CDC. When I was out here doing bad in prison, I encouraged them to work for CDC where the money was at, and they're going to help me get back in prison. The dentist and the training center are the ones that are pushing me to get in right now.
All right.
That's a blessing in itself. Amen.
You know, there's all these different stories, but they're all kind of the same story, which is really amazing. And up next, we have John Lowry. Some of you guys know him. And he's got a story to tell. Thank you, John.
I'm going to hook this right here and talk, and I'm loud anyway. I find it interesting to be asked to come and speak at events because I always ask myself what qualifies a person to speak. And if you think about it, the only qualifications any of us that talk today, or most of us that are here, is that we're broken. We broke the laws of God, and we have destroyed lives, and we're trying to give back with all of our heart. Eddie, I've known Eddie since he came home. I know him personally since he came home. I've known about Eddie for a long time. In 1980, I was arrested for robbing drug dealers, been doing it for 8 years, taking off heavy holders. Got a nice hot 30-year sentence. Then my crime partner ratted on me. I go to Chino, the reception center. He's in the module next to me. I got a shot to whack him, so I jumped on him and stabbed him up. They just beat me up and put me on a bus to Old Folsom. I come to Old Folsom. I thought it was the neatest place on earth. This place looks like a castle. You pull up there, and it's got this big stone archway with a tower next to it that's got a copper roof on it. And there's a 50 caliber machine gun pointing down at you, and above the entrance it says, "All ye who enter these gates have lost all hope." And I walked in 1980, the tail end of 1980, and it was the beginning of a 4-year race war that went on there between blacks and Mexicans. Whites had it nice, man. We'd manipulate the Mexicans, we'd manipulate the blacks. We'd watch them stab each other, get shot, do all that, and it was like a comedy show to us because we didn't care. Eddie talked about he didn't care. We didn't care. I remember a guy had some real nice Nike shoes, and it was his time. Everybody's name's in the hat. You're all up to get stabbed at one time or another, it seems like. And this guy, it was his time to get killed because he had violated something, but he had these nice brand new Nikes. And I wanted them Nikes real bad. So I went with the crew, 2 guys that were going to stab him. One guy's going to hold him, the other guy's going to whack him and, hold him, keep his mouth shut, stab him on the tier. And I'm telling him, lean him back, don't get his shoes dirty. And I kept those shoes for about 3 years. You're laughing, you know what I mean? But I had some nice Nikes that I got. I mean, a person with no conscience. You think about that. All I cared about was a pair of Nikes, And it's just sad where we get to because we're broken people. when they created Indeterminate Shoes. I was one of that crew that created that. At Old Folsom, they were a little upset at us. We created and made 4 pounds of plastic explosives, and we had a nice detonator made out of stainless steel. It was up on the hill. We had some 9mm pistols. Everybody had buck knives. They were a little bit mad at us, and they said, you guys cannot be on the line no more. You are dangerous. You're a threat to the state. And they created Indeterminate Shoe. So we get to segregation, and we can't, you know, they're not mixing blacks and whites and Mexicans. They're running race at a time. Whites go to the yard, blacks go to the yard, Mexicans go to the yard. So what do we do for entertainment? We start killing ourselves. We start saying, oh, homie didn't pay enough in his groceries this week, you know, out of the canteen. He didn't kick me down an ice cream, so we need to whack him. And you'd kill somebody over an ice cream. And then the entertainment was like cell extractions. I used to always put a postcard in the window of the door, because they had these I was used to bars. They put us in these, you know, they've got bars that used to run at Old Folsom up and down, but now they got these doors with a window in them. And we'd put a little postcard in there, and that'd make them so mad because nothing's allowed in the window. And they'd tell you, bang, 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 take that out of the window, take that out of the window. You just ignore them. Pretty soon you got an 8-man extraction team at your door, and you've already put shampoo on the floor and you ripped your sheets up and tied it from the bench where the desk is over to the bed and all that, so they come in, slip and slide, and you get to fight with them. This is comedy to us. And you can't tell me that's not a broken person. That's somebody that doesn't care. And we used to do this constantly. I'll never forget Blue, one of the AV guys, Blue and another guy. They decided, you know, we're gonna flood the place. So they had fire extinguishers at New Folsom. And so they turn on the fire extinguishers. And this thing in the unit we're in, it's supposedly kicking out 10,000 gallons an hour, okay? The cops let it run for 24 hours. They did not care. Every cell just had these waterfalls coming out and over the tier. We were on the second bunk with the sheets hanging from the top like in a little cave, freezing. And we thought that was funny. We're broken people. We have no sense in our heads. I remember Blue and his cellie, they had, before we all went in for Indeterminate Shoe, we had gotten every match we could get, because they used to issue matches. You remember that, Joe? Matches and the bugler at the end of the tier, and we ground it up and we put it in our Kool-Aid containers, so it looked like pink Kool-Aid, all those red match heads all ground up. Well, the cops, they were a little dumb, so when they put us in, they gave us our property. They just took it out of the jars and put it in plastic bags, and everybody had their Kool-Aid. Well, Blue and his cellie, they took the tube that holds a seat up to the desk. It's like a square tubing. They cut that off, and they notched it, and all of us sent our buttons and our zippers down, and they packed it with all these ground up matches, and they made a cannon. And their cell was right at the end of the tier. So here these cops come walking up for count. And Blue and Robert Griffin, they light this cannon off. And all we heard was this huge boom, this big explosion. There's smoke, there's fire at the end of the tier. The cops jumped off the stairs. We're all laughing. We should have laughed. We should have seen inside that cell, because that cannon came back inside the cell, bounced around, beat up both them guys. They came out of there with their big old brushes, smoking and everything. But this is the kind of things that we do when we're broken people. But I'm going to tell you, in 1989, somebody cared enough about me, a complete stranger, that this person started writing to me and was sending me what I tell you is, to me, as a heathen dog, was a bunch of Christian garbage. I didn't want to read it. I'd get these envelopes like almost an inch thick with all these Christian articles and all this stuff, and they'd send this to me. And I'd throw all that stuff away, and I'd just write back, you know, hey, send me a package. I need money for a canteen. Great to hear from you. I love you too. You know what I mean? But one day, my conscience kind of got to me. I started to get a conscience, because obviously this person was praying for me. And I wrote a letter. I wrote a single-page letter. I said, look, I do not like people. Because I didn't. I didn't like people. Could care less about anybody. I did not like people. I only liked myself. I said, I do not like people. I like dogs. That's why when Lisa came, I'm like, give me the dog. Let me play with the dog. I said, I like dogs, because all a dog wants to do is be loved, fed, and left alone. But a person, especially those Christians, they'll talk behind your back, they'll gossip about you, they'll smile in your face and say, yeah, God bless you, Jesus loves you, I forgive you, and they don't forgive a thing. So I don't want nothing to do with that. I just love dogs. And I sent this letter out. And I thought this lady that was writing to me would leave it alone. Well, a week later, I got this little envelope, and it was real thin. And I said, oh, there's that letter saying bye-bye. I opened it up, and there was a tract in it. I threw the tract in the trash. And I opened the letter, and the first sentence said, don't throw this away. Read it. It's important. I'm like, hey, man, what's up with this? So I got the tract out of the trash, and it's called Barry the Heroic Dog, and it's from a 1957 National Geographic story about this dog named Barry, who's a rescue dog, and he's out in the snow country, and he had 42 rescues. And it was a story of his 42nd rescue they wrote about. National Geographic wrote the story. You can see it. And Barry was let loose to go find this guy, and the system is pretty easy. You know, you train a dog to find somebody, and then you claim, oh yeah, we found this guy. The dog does. You just track the dog. Well, they let Barry loose to find this guy, and they're trained in the snow country that if you're down in the snow, you probably have hypothermia. So a dog is trained to lay on top of you to keep you warm until the owner follows the dog, tracks the dog, and finds you, and they rescue you. Well, this guy had been down in the snow, and he was hypothermic, and the dog tried to lay on him, and he thought he was a wolf. And he pulled out this knife, and he whacked the dog. Now, I had just watched E.T., and I was so mad when I thought they killed E.T. You know what I mean? I don't like people, but I like TV. And here I'm reading this Christian stuff, and they stabbed a dog. I was mad. I was hot. I'm like, what the heck is this? But I kept reading, and it said the dog got stabbed. It turned, and it ran back towards the owner because he knows that's where safety is, back where Dad is. But he bled to death. Now I'm really mad. I'm hot. I threw that thing away. I crunched it, everything. I got it back, and I got to see what's up with this. And I open it back up, and it says the man found the dead dog, followed the blood to the man, and for National Geographic, that was the story, is that Barry gave his life to save this man. But then the next sentence is what rocked me to the core of my soul. It said, there's a trail of blood that leads to Calvary. And because of the story of a dog, I immediately accepted Christ, quit gangbanging, turn around and look at my cellie, we're both AB, and tell him, I'm done. That went over like a rock sinking in a pond. He looked at me and he's like, what? And I said, man, I'm done. He said, man, you know what that means? I said, I know exactly what that means. I said, I'm a laying hands Christian too. You can come at me, I'm gonna stay alive. You go talk to Jesus. So I go out to council meetings, I go all that. Well, right at this time, the federal court ruled in my favor and released me from segregation. I'd done 4 years. So I get this order to get released, but none of the prisons want me because they have a debriefing program to get on their main lines. And then the protective custody lines, they won't let me there because everybody's afraid. So I get another court order that says you must let him out because nobody wanted me. So they sent me to beautiful Tehachapi. They put me on a bus. They put me at Tehachapi. They open up the bus doors. I go to R&R, and I walk from R&R to the fish row, and I think it was 47 kites dropped on me that night. Why is this guy here? Why is he here? Why is he here? So a couple days later, they take me down to ICC, and they said, Calipat wants you. We're going to send you down to Calipat.